resurrects that child in you that knows how to dream.
It's like having a script or a play, but the other person doesn't know what their part is. So you need to give them their part.
This is why I'm the rookie on the show here.
Money is no option. I want you to write down for me the most beautiful vision of your life that you can possibly imagine.
What is your message to the woman listening to this right now?
Picture something better, because if you can't see it here, it's not happening on the other side.
You didn't get what was on your bucket list. You got something that was better than what was on your bucket list.
Way beyond,
right?
Way beyond.
That was 100% me. And it just brought up so much emotion to see where I've come from to where I am now.
Knowing that we're safe is huge. I feel honored I got to be on the podcast when you guys share that story.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Seth, and this is The Forever Young Show. The most powerful force in this world is a woman who knows who she is, why she is here, and what she wants to accomplish.
And that's where self-care comes in. As a woman, it is my opportunity and my responsibility to take care of me.
Self-care for your mind.
Self-care for your body.
Self-care for your money.
Our mission is to serve women as they fulfill their irreplaceable roles in families, society, business, the fabric of humanity.
So let's get this show on the road.
Our guest today is MaryLyn Lawrence. She is a busy mom of 4 and a stepmom of 7 and a grandma of 13. Wow. She is a self-care strategist, entrepreneur who totally gets the struggle of amazing on-the-go women trying to squeeze in some well-deserved self-care.
There is so much. That is so deep when you know who MaryLyn is. I remember when we were talking about starting the show, and she's like, keep these podcasts short. like she is for the on-the-go woman, right? She is about, hey, here's the strategy, implement. And I'm like, okay. And we talked about that. And then we went through a bunch of strategy because MaryLyn, you are our target audience, right? You're on this show to talk to the target. You're the target as well. And so I kept on thinking, oh goodness, like what we ended up doing is running 80 to 90 minute episodes.
Yeah. I've been listening to them.
And so
hey.
I have gone along kind of asking myself this question in the back of my mind. How far is MaryLyn getting into these episodes? Like, did she see that it was 90 minutes and she just checked out? She's like, I'm sorry, that did not meet my criteria. And how gratifying it was today as we were on in the pre-show talking about episodes that you've been listening to. And I'm like, awesome. We're doing something right.
Well, you also, and it's my superpower to be able to like synthesize things into the most efficient method, I guess.
Yes.
And that's great when you have, 11 children and I'm hoping for even more grandchildren. When you have a family that's over 30 people and that's your core unit, you know this, you guys have a big family. You learn to do that. You give up perfection just to be able to do the quantity of things that you do. But I love to focus in on one thing. And so, if I'm going to listen to a podcast, it's because I'm exercising or I'm cleaning the house. I mean, I'm doing something listening. So I loved the podcasts. I stayed with them. Everyone that I was into, I listened until I absolutely couldn't listen.
We also have to give props to you for basically a template, or I'd say the culture of the show, because in our mainline business, Stephanie and I, as you know, we serve women all over the world, tens of thousands of entrepreneurial, health-minded women. And we deal with things like mindset because it's a business. And of course, we're in the health business, helping people get healthier. So there's the body part. And people come to us because they want to make money. There's the money part. So we kind of got the mind, body, money. But we never really called it self-care until you. And you were exploring a niche a few years back. And we had these strategy discussions. And you felt like there is no great definitive source, especially for women, on self-care. Like there's a hole. and I'm going to fill that hole. So as a self-care strategist and entrepreneur, you founded youcanselfcare.com,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, absolutely. For women.
For women. So MaryLyn's mission is not only to inspire women to practice better self-care, but to strategize with them about the hows of successful self-care so they can live their best busy lives supporting themselves and those they love from a sacred space of love and wellness. So we have the original You Can Self-Care woman right here. And that's why the Forever Young show focuses so much on self-care, because we wanted to follow your lead, honestly, and say, all right, you see a hole. We trust you. We know you, we know you've got skills, and we're already serving these women. How can we take it to the next level? How can we reach more women outside of our mainline business? And what is that message? And combining self-care of the mind, body, and money, just, it really came together beautifully. So we tip our hat to you, and we're grateful to have the OG on the show today.
You are very kind, very kind. We've been on this journey a long time together. So I would say that we strategize together, and you've influenced me more than I will ever influence you. You're a master with words and have inspired me the last 15 years in every way. So my gratitude.
Gratitude party. Let's do it.
Try to live there.
If you want to follow MaryLyn, go to youcanselfcare.com. Super, super easy. And let's jump into talking about what we're so passionate about.
What are you most passionate about right now? And what are you doing about it?
When you ask that question, I'm always passionate about my faith, and I'm always passionate about my family. Those always lead. Outside of that, self-care has obviously become my passion. I built that whole website a few years ago. I try to put those messages out there that will help and inspire women. I, like you, and I love this about your podcast, I focus on the individual woman. So the women that I talk to, I'm thinking of one woman every time I'm sending a message. I try not to generalize. I try to make messages, even though they're general, I've in my mind, before I craft them, before I craft what I want to create, it's always for a specific person, a specific woman in a specific situation, usually someone I know. And that way I just feel like it's more personal and it resonates with more women because I was thinking of one woman.
I love that. And that woman represents 100, 500, 10,000 other women who are probably in similar situations. From a personality standpoint, it really always comes down to one person, right? Because whoever's on the other end of that message, whoever is listening to this podcast, it's one person. We're not podcasting to a group of people. We're podcasting to one woman. So we always ask in our outro, actually, who's the one woman? Who is the one woman that needs this message today? Hit forward, hit send, hit copy, hit paste, share this message with her, because we're actually talking about that one woman today.
Do you guys always have a song in your head?
I am a song.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Is it romantic too?
Like it has different parts. Like there's different, some days I live in crescendo, some I'm in decrescendo, some day I'm just a bridge, some day I've got vocals, some day I'm rocking it out with, Van Halen, and most days I'm just in a truck on a country road.
I've never heard this before.
I know. You know what? You served it up to me. You threw the pitch, and I'm like, I'm going for it. I'm going for it. I mean, I got a guitar sitting right here off camera.
See? I always have a song in my head.
Do you really?
Yeah. People say words and the song just changes to the words to include the words they said.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's nice.
It's tiring once in a while.
I'm sure.
Love music.
Stop singing. Yeah, me too. Music, I mean, for a long time, I felt like it's almost saved me, right? In the hard times.
Definitely.
Use it to control your emotions.
Yes. I've had answers to prayer through song.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It's a powerful tool.
There's one big song that is an answer to your prayers. That's me. Remember, I'm the song.
He's the song. I knew it was coming.
I guess I have to remind myself that you're a song.
Yeah.
A small, little known fact that I've been dabbling. Really, I mean, I'm not a professional, obviously, but I enjoy singing. I love singing. We've talked about how there's a whole story about me losing my voice, metaphorically, gaining it back, and this woman has a lot to do with that. But I actually composed a song. I composed a song when I went to propose to her.
Ah.
On the very dance floor. On the very, we met on the country dance floor. Mm-hmm. So on the very spot where we first danced, I called the owners of the dance place. This is 8 months later. Well, 7 months later, and said, "Hey, can we get in on a Sunday?" And he was a friend of ours, and so he had it open. He opened it up. We went in, and what she didn't know, I had blindfolded her and driven around the town. My younger brother, was it my brother?
Yeah.
My brother shuttled all of the kids that were home. So, 6 kids over to the dance hall while I'm stalling and buying time. Wow. Our kids come in, our kids are there hiding behind all these curtains, and she has no idea. And I blindfold her as we're driving around. So she has no idea where we are. We go in and I walk in on the hardwood floor. And I say, and I'm wondering, I wonder if she can sense it. 'Cause she's super intuitive. Right. Sense of smell.
But I was wearing heels because we were doing pictures.
True.
And you threw me off by blindfolding me in the middle of the drive. He's like, "Oh, look out the window over there." I'm like, "Okay." And then he blindfolded me when I turned to look out the window.
That's right.
So I was totally thrown off about it all. And I never wore heels going dancing, so it wouldn't feel the same.
True. So then we got in there and I was wondering, is this going to give it away? Right. I mean, she has
give it away now.
I was not on board with that song. I don't even know that song. So I wish I would have come and done your backup. Were you expecting a proposal then anyway? Like, what was going through your mind?
Satan was really working on me to not even come. So Seth was like, "Hey, we're doing a big family photo with his 2 siblings and parents and, some of our older kids that were there and the rest of our kids." And so that should have been my first clue, but it wasn't.
Oh, that we're including you in the family photo?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you don't usually do that, when you're just dating somebody.
With AI these days, you can do all kinds of things.
Do whatever you
want.
That's true.
Like in the past, you just say, "Okay, let's just create a little space here and you're going to line up on the right." And then we can always just cut the picture. Right. But with AI these days,
that's actually what I was thinking.
Or you had me and I was a Photoshop whiz back then.
That's right.
And so, and I was like, "I don't know what to wear." And Seth was, "Oh, I love this outfit on you." And it was like, a mini skirt, not a mini skirt. Oh my goodness. A pencil skirt.
A pencil skirt.
Yes, a pencil skirt and a nice blouse and some heels. And so I should have known. So then I was hoping, but I wasn't sure.
Okay. So the answer was you were hoping.
I think so.
That's what matters, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear this.
I don't know if you remember, but I already knew we were supposed to be married and you did too, but you had to process
it. Yeah.
And so
the guys are a little slower.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, man, we should already be engaged by now, but I was waiting, like your friends told me.
It's going to be a while.
Hang on, Stephanie.
I mean, 7 whole months, Stephanie.
Exactly.
I know, right? But hey, when on the second date.
I know. I knew on the 4th. So I'm right there with you. It took me 1.5 years to get there, though.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we walk into the dance hall, right? And I'm wondering, is she going to know where we are? And she said, "Are we in some old church?"
That's what it smelled like.
Kind of smelled like some old church.
An old church.
And then I had a chair out and sat her in a chair, and I sat across from her. I had my guitar case right there on the ground, literally right where we had our first dance, and undid the blindfold, and everybody was hidden and quiet.
Well, first you sat me down, and I could hear you stirring around. I wasn't sure what it was until you took the blindfold off, and then you had the guitar in your hands.
Okay.
And we were knee to knee. I was like, "Oh, I know what's going on."
Oh,
boom.
Yeah.
Hit a few chords and 3 chords and started singing a song about us. And it's the time has come is what that call. And what was that song is called about combining our lives and our vision and our dreams and our family, our family and our children. And anyway, talking about music, that was a tangent.
Well, and then he's, he got down on one knee and proposed. And I said, yes. And he remembered a few things that I had told him when we were dating. Like, if we get married, I want it to be like filmed or photographed, and I want our kids to be a part of it. And so he had set up one camera pretty close to us, but I was so like entranced in him and his singing that I didn't even notice it till after.
Wow.
And then he had at least one of our kids behind one of the curtains filming from a different angle.
That's so great.
And so he, got down and proposed and then got up and we hugged and kissed. And he's like, oh, the kids are going to be so excited when we tell them. And that was their cue. And they came out running and like screaming, so excited. And said, we all did like a big family hug. And then they said something, how they were feeling in the camera. But,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
We need to mix that.
I feel honored. I got to hear that.
We don't share that story very often.
I do.
Women know what touch women.
Oh, man.
It's so true.
This is why I'm the rookie on the show here.
I don't know about that.
I'm the apprentice. I got Trump over here.
You've got a beautiful wife who adores you, and that's the most important thing for any man, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Are you kidding me? Life.
And it's even better when it's reciprocated, right?
Right? It's the best.
It really
It's unbelievable, actually.
It really is.
Larry often says it's like if I went to some country in Africa where they'd never seen ice cream and they finally got to taste it. He's like, that's what it's like being in a really good relationship when you haven't known that.
Oh, yeah.
So true. So true.
He loves ice cream.
So it has that much more meaning.
So much more.
Yes.
Oh, that's cute. That's good. I feel honored I got to be on the podcast when you guys share that story.
Well, thank you.
It's really, really beautiful. It shows you how thoughtful Seth is, that he listened to what your desires in your heart were to have your children there during that. And he responded. So I'm impressed.
I was too. Afterwards, I was like, oh my goodness, you remembered like the things that I said were like the most important to me.
Remember is an interesting word. I remembered, and that's an interesting word in our marriage because I'll say things like, I've never heard that before. She'll say, I've told you that 27 times.
Okay, maybe not 27, but yes, this actually happened. Was it yesterday?
Yesterday.
I was like, oh, well, actually, I have told you at least 3 or 4 times. And he's like, oh.
I'm like, what? Really? You told me that? Yeah. So, I mean, I forget, but it was important. So I wrote it down. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. When you hear something important, you make a list.
I had to, I knew I valued our relationship. And so when she said things that were important to her, I would pull out my phone at some point and I had a list, Stephanie, boom, boom. It was bullet points on she wants the kids to be doing, she wants this, she wants that. And I don't remember any of the things on that list.
One of them was a weekly date and you're still
a weekly date and we're cranky. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I fulfilled on the desires and the expectations. And more than anything, just knowing what's important to that other person and in their lives. And so I could be I'm going to be a whole lot better at this just in general, but I have created a framework for that. So I have a little note called family. And when one of our daughters will say something, hey, this isn't, I will love this or I love that. Then, I should write that down and then, review it actually. Right. And say, that's how you, as a parent or as a mentor or as a coach or as a partner or as a friend, you can fulfill big time, right?
Yeah.
You can fulfill big time by doing small things. You remembered that? Yeah, I remembered. I remember because I wrote it down. Yeah. But then I reviewed it and then I went and executed on that.
That's great. I'm going to add that because I do that in my head, but I'm going to make a list and keep it in my phone of all my grandkids and my kids so that when I do want to do something special for them, I can hit the target, right? Because it's about hitting the target. it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it has to hit its target, right? And the target was when I'm being proposed to, I want my children to be, or our children to be part of that. So that's super cool. I love that. Yeah. Love that, Seth.
Now I got to go like live it. Cause I created the frame. I created the framework and I've done it, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's so much power in that. And there's small things. Nothing's coming to my mind right now, but I know, our 20-year-old daughter made mention of something recently. And now I'm wondering in my mind, did I write that one down? But I remember I need to write that one down. When you listen for things like that, and then you follow up at some future point, you hit the target. Like it's not pushing buttons. You pushing the good buttons, right?
Right?
Yes.
I thought about that when I was dating my husband. I was like, I just want to give him a guide, because all I want or need is like, if someone tickles my arm right here, I'm so happy. Like, it's really easy. I'm not complicated. Or if I get tulips that cost, under $10, I'm really happy. I mean, they're simple things, right? And I'm like, just hit these little targets, and it's not complicated. I did give him a big one though. I told him I wasn't going to marry him unless he took me to U2, the concert. Because I love music, right? And I loved U2. And he looked at me and said, I have YouTube on my phone.
He said YouTube?
He'd never heard of U2.
Oh my goodness.
So he had no idea what I was talking about. And the only reason I said it was because I wanted to be in a relationship where something I cared about that meant nothing to him still mattered. And because I know that I'm a pleaser, right? And I know that I have those tendencies, and I wanted to have a relationship where it was mutual, and that we were both looking for the needs of the other one to be fulfilled. And so he did take me. He took me. I stood in the pit in New Jersey. And he stood there with me the entire time, didn't care a whit about the music. But every person in that stadium was on their feet for the whole concert. It was a blast. And I knew, okay, I've got someone. I might have to write the note for him. He might not keep a list. Well, he probably does, to be honest. He's pretty meticulous.
He's prodigious like that.
Yeah, he's like that. And it's so fun to be in a relationship where you're both pleasers, and the funny part becomes who gets to please today. Yeah. That's where our conflicts usually come. You're looking a little knowingly at each other.
Where the streets have no name. Where the streets have no name. What an amazing concert I bet that was.
Yeah, it was fun. Then I knew I had someone who cared about what I cared about, even if it was completely different than what they cared about, which makes for a really fun relationship.
Well, speaking of that, and this is something we've talked about, I think you were looking at me and I was looking at you because we feel that way in our relationship. Yeah. And how amazing for you to go someplace you truly wanted to go. It was like a dream. Like, I want to go to U2. And he's thinking, well, I can just pull up YouTube on my phone. No, we're talking about like an actual concert, folks. Larry.
Like fly across the country, right?
Yeah.
But to be there together with him because you fulfilling your dream or your desire was his desire. It was that important to him, again, to something that he wasn't jiving, right? He didn't even know there was a song where the streets have no name, right?
And, it made me cry.
I wondered if you were doing that. That is a treat. That is so special. And something you said, I think, is super critical for relationships. And Steph and I have talked a lot about this. We call it content communication, right? Like, just because you communicate your needs, wants, desires to that person, it doesn't lessen the relationship. Like, communicate the things that you want and need, right? And don't expect somebody to read your mind, right? Like, how in the world would he ever, unless God sent him a revelation that said, you too, right? Like, how would he ever have stumbled upon that? And you can't hold that against him because his keyboard's different than your keyboard, right? So you gotta give him the code.
In
Yep.
therapy, my therapist said it's like having a script or a play, play script, but the other person doesn't know what their part is.
Right.
And it's
That's
like,
great.
so you need to give them their part. They need to know what their part is. And I was like, oh, it totally clicked for me. Like, I can't just expect him to know what his part is unless we discuss that.
That's true. That's true. And speaking of this, you made me emotional because my mind also went to this last March, just, a few weeks ago. He had asked what we want on our bucket list. So we have a big bucket list. It's ongoing. We add to it all the time. But my top thing on the bucket list, he said, what's your top thing? And I said, well, actually, it's something you know nothing about. I said, I want to go to a meditation retreat with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he said, great, let's do it. And I was like, okay. So I signed up.
Do you know what you're getting into, Larry? Do you know
right?
what you're getting
No,
into?
exactly. So I sign up for the retreat. I sign us both up. It's in Cancun and it's a week long. Well, you have to understand, my husband is a financial advisor. He is an extrovert and he works at least 12 hours a day when we're home. And then he plays hard the same way when we travel, but he takes phone calls the entire time, right? We're in Disneyland the week before that retreat and he is on the phone like all the time taking calls, and he's just a really extroverted, outgoing, work focused person. So he's doing that or he's asleep. Those are the two modes that my husband has. He's on the ranch working, he's in the office working, he's playing hard on water skis, whatever, but it's full blast all the time.
Intense.
Or he's asleep.
High intensity focus, right?
Yes. Highly successful. And
Larry
awesome,
and I
right?
need to hang out more. He and I really we need to get out on that ranch and just do some work. You tell him
you're welcome. We're doing the roundup next week. You're invited. Bring your kids. So the retreat's approaching. We're supposed to have listened to 27 hours of classes before. And I'm not so worried about it because I've been following Joe Dispenza for the last 15 years, right? So I listen to his meditations all the time. I'm very familiar with all the podcasts he's been on. I know the lingo and it's good. Well, I'm thinking I'm taking this man with me. And so I call him, are you sure you want to go? You know that we're going to be sitting in a dark room for like a week. He's like, no, I want to go. And I'm thinking, perhaps this won't be a good experience. And then the other part of me is thinking, well, Larry runs marathons. He's run 30 Boston marathons in a row. Like, wow. He knows what meditation is. You don't run a marathon if you don't know how to meditate at some level because it's painful to run a marathon, right? And so I'm thinking, well, he probably knows more about meditation than he thinks. So he shows up and we get there and we go in the dark room. There are 2,000 people in the room. So there are more than 2,050 people in the dark room. And we start to get educated on epigenetics and neuroscience and all the stuff I love, right? Quantum physics that I don't really understand, but I love learning. And we're learning about all of this. And then my husband looks at me after 2 hours and he says, did he just take 2 hours to say thoughts become things? I started laughing and I'm like, yes, he did. And he's like, well, Larry already believes that. He lives it every day, right? So I'm thinking, oh, this is not going to go well. But Larry doesn't say anything. And we go into the meditation and he's just great. And he's so patient. I'm thinking the marathon man's coming out. He's just going to treat this like a marathon. We're going to sit here. He turns his phone off and he tries really, really hard. And by day 3, he's looking at his hands and he's like, just in wonder and awe that he has a body. And he's like looking around and he's like, all the colors, they're so beautiful. And I'm looking at him and thinking, I am the luckiest woman in the entire world. I married a man who would not have chosen this in a million years, but he went in 100%. And I was so in love with him. That week, I still am, but it totally changed our relationship because he could do something completely foreign and trust that I thought it was good and be part of it and go 100% and leave his phone off for an entire week and show up 100%. Wow. And the last morning he said, can I sleep in? And I was like, yes, you can do whatever you want because no one would have done this that I can think of that would go in. And I think maybe you two could have done that. But to go into something that's so foreign and give it 100% and give it your all and watch your wife have the experience of her lifetime that she wanted, it meant a lot. So those are the kind of things that make beautiful relationships, right?
Absolutely.
But you can't know that if you don't ask them. Had he not asked, it would have been on my bucket list still to this day, right? Because I'm not the kind of person who would have said, hey, come do this with me. I'm learning to be that person. But to have someone ask me straight out, what's the top thing on your bucket list? Let's knock it off this year. I mean, that's kind of cool, right?
That's really
It's
cool.
a great question.
Yes.
And I'm thinking a couple of thoughts are just like racing around my mind. Number one, the funniest thing is that Larry's kind of a get things done kind of a guy. Am I correct?
Yes,
And so
absolutely.
just the irony, like let's get to the punchline, kind of a Cliff Notes kind of a guy, thorough, but I mean, professionally, he has to be thorough. He's not impulsive, but he's a very intelligent guy that can kind of push through the weeds and say, let's find the nugget here. But did Dr. Joe Dispenza just take 2 hours to tell us that thoughts are things?
I know,
like,
right?
What patience for an approach that was so different from his own. Number one. Number two, next level. Next level. It is one thing to tolerate. It's like the lowest level. Well, there's below tolerate. There are other like yuckies, right? Like, right. Non-supportive, right? Antagonistic, et cetera. But at the very bottom kind of level of some level of positivity, right? In relationships, there's tolerate. And then there's encourage. Well, above that, there's a whole spectrum, but not just to say that you can go by yourself. And I want to talk about that. That's number three, but to say, like I'm taking a lesson, just so you know.
I'm glad. I was hoping. I'm like, maybe if I don't say anything, it'll absorb a little more.
Not just to say, sure, I'll go with you. And I mean, I could see this playing out in a lot of relationships. I'll go with you, but I'm not going to be present because it doesn't interest me. I'll go with you, or did he really take 2 hours to read something I just could have read in 2 seconds that I already know and I live? Like, been there, done that, right? No, he goes full and humbles himself to fully invest. And I think the beautiful thing about that, metaphorically, is that was a completely different experience for MaryLyn.
Yes.
Because you didn't get what was on your bucket list. You got something that was better than what was on your bucket list.
Way beyond.
Right?
Way beyond.
So that's kind of that's what I'm learning. That's what I'm learning. I'm thinking, oh, okay. Sometimes, like, I'm super supportive.
Oh yeah.
And I see myself doing that. I mean, we've done, but this becomes kind of a standard. I'm like, oh, that's how Larry did it. Okay.
And Joe Dispenza, he inspires that, to give him credit. And Larry is amazing, and he does live by a mantra that would help all of us. He lives by most important now, MIN. He lives by that. He's always looking at what's the most important thing I should be doing right now. So living by that mantra, he would sit next to me, and I'm assuming he would say, the most important thing I can do now is be all in for her, right? But I did not know that he was going to do that. I had no expectation of that. And it was such a beautiful thing. It was such a beautiful gift to me. Really raised our relationship to new heights. And it's been really fun living in that new space. So there's always more to learn. We can always go deeper in our relationships. That's the beautiful part about being human.
And my message to every woman out there who doesn't have that relationship right now, right? You both have been there.
Oh, I've been there.
You've been there. I'm learning. I'm not going to give any advice right here. I'm going to ask you two ladies. What is the message that we'll start with MaryLyn and we'll go to Steph. What is your message as a friend to the woman listening to this right now, that one woman who doesn't have that type of relationship, but still has a bucket list or should have a bucket list? And go.
I am so excited to talk about this because I told you I spend a lot of time with people going through hard times. They're amazing, beautiful people. And one thing I learned, especially about women, is that they have lost the ability to dream. And so I would say resurrect that child in you that knows how to dream. I once was helping a girl going through a really hard breakup. She had a child and she was getting divorced and she had no self-confidence. And I live in a beautiful place and I sent her out on the swing by the river and I said, sit here and I want you to write for me everything that you can imagine for you and your child in the future. I mean, everything. Money is no option. I want you to write down for me the most beautiful vision of your life that you can possibly imagine. And this is a young girl. She's maybe 30. And she sat out there in the swing with the mountains and the river. She came back and she handed me a notebook. And in the notebook where I'd asked her to write that, she'd written, I'd like to get an apartment and have a job in the daycare where I can take care of my child. That was the biggest dream this woman could come up with. The biggest dream. She's 30 years old. And that was the biggest dream that she could come up with in an hour's worth of time, maybe 45 minutes worth of time. And I told her money was no option. And I watched so many women who are going through hard times that just lose that ability to tap into their imagination and their ability to picture something better. Because if you can't see it here, it's not happening on the other side. And so when you get to the other side, that time is going to pass. You will get through that divorce, or you will start to move through the grief of whatever you're going through, whatever hardship. There is a time when you'll be on the other side of that. You need to decide now what that looks like, and you need to spend a lot of your time there. I have a friend that is going through a really hard time after her husband passed away during COVID, and she wants a new relationship because she doesn't want to be alone. She doesn't like to be alone. And but her thoughts have been really self-sabotaging and really, really negative. And she hangs out with us, and we're good enough friends that we all kind of laugh every time she speaks because we all know that mindset from before, and we're all on the other side except for her. Mm-hmm. And she keeps saying, what are you talking about? And then it finally dawned on me last week that she does have a superpower, and it is her imagination, but she's turned it on herself. Mm-hmm. And so we have helped her turn that imagination into a real superpower to imagine the future where there's this loving, great relationship, and to spend time every day envisioning that, because that is how we retrain our bodies. And people say, take control of your mind, watch your thoughts. Well, we said that to her for a long time, but I've learned that rather than watching my thoughts, because those are hard and they go really fast in my mind, I started to watch my body. I started to watch when the chemicals rush through me. Then I know that I'm getting out of alignment with what I actually want in life, because I can feel that chemistry change either in my heart or in my brain or in my gut. And when they do that, I've learned to identify it. So I know that when my brain wants to shut down, I'm in self-sabotaging mode. And I love self-sabotaging mode because when I'm in self-sabotage, it's right before a breakthrough. It's my last ditch attempt for my brain. It's going to say, no, I'm going to keep you safe. In fact, I'm not even going to work, And so I'll feel this chemical change go through my brain, and I think my thoughts go, oh, I'm really tired, which I'm never tired. So it's just ridiculous, right? But my brain's trying to keep me safe. But now I know it's self-sabotage, and I know I'm that close to the breakthrough. And so I go, oh, no. I can feel the chemistry, and then I can change my thoughts.
Wow. That brought up a lot of emotion for me because, I was that girl not too long ago. Seth and I, we've only known each other 10 years.
10 years this year.
And
same with me and Larry.
So when I started dating him, he just started talking about, I just want you to be a beautiful butterfly and have these wings and be able to soar. And just a lot of amazing things. And so he would talk about that, especially when we got married, talking about dreaming. And I'm like, I don't know how to dream. Like marrying you was the biggest dream. In fact, it was even more than what I had dreamt. So I knew it was from God. But, you saying that this woman had said, to marry a really great man and have her own apartment. I'm like, that was 100% me, 100% me. And it just brought up so much emotion to see where I've come from to where I am now.
I love you. It's fun watching you. And I listened to your podcast with Lou, I think it was. And you were talking about that now you're on the board and you're fundraising and you're Madam President or whatever. And it's beautiful, right? Like it's so beautiful on the other side of the stuckness. Mm-hmm. And I just want people to get there as fast as they can get there because it's so beautiful over here.
It really is. It really is. Having that permission to dream and then being taught what it's like, to dream and actually fulfill those dreams is just so huge. So fulfilling.
And you have to accept it, right? Like I couldn't just have like Larry asked me, right? So I'm lucky enough to be in a supportive relationship. Before I probably would have dropped hints and hoped that someone figured it out. Like Seth was saying, I didn't know how to communicate, but now at least I can put things on the list because I've also come a long, long ways. I learned early on that I couldn't do mind reading. So if my husband came home and I cleaned the floor that day and all I was doing was, housework or whatever, I would say, look at my clean floor. I learned not to wait for someone to notice because if I needed the feedback, I did take responsibility for it. But at another level, when you learn more about your own self-care, you find that on the same coin with giving comes receiving. And if you're always trying to throw and get heads, it's just not going to work. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's going to land on tails. And when you learn that receiving is part of giving and you let that flow, it becomes really, really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. That's very powerful. I even remember, having some breakthroughs but needing Seth, and I needed him to say certain things to me. I remember like it was yesterday, but I think it was a handful of years ago, where I'm just like, what, I'm having a really hard time with such and such. I know this might not make sense, but I need you to say these exact words to me. And I think it was something along the lines of, you are safe with me.
Yes. Yep. I needed those too, Stephanie. I needed those exact words. I asked for them.
Yes. And I was blown away myself. And I know I was inspired to even ask, for that specific thing. And it took a lot of humility to do it. I was blown away at how much it worked, how effective it was for me to feel safe, to feel genuine from him. Not because he wouldn't say it genuinely, but because I had to tell him what to say because he didn't know. Yeah. He didn't know that in that moment, those were the words that I needed. And
to any woman who's been through any kind of trauma, which is all of us, right? Yeah. Knowing that we're safe is huge.
Yes.
I mean, it's huge. Yeah. I think to men too, maybe the need to actually hear it and then to learn to trust it is something that a lot of women I know really have that need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's life-changing.
So I'm asking you the question now.
Okay, what was the question again?
C's candy or cheesecake?
I've got C's hidden in my drawer right here.
I'm coming over.
Okay. Uncle night.
Okay. So
I have to choose.
That's exactly where we're going. Both.
How about a cheesecake that's made with C's candy?
Salted caramel.
There you go, on top. So your question was what your advice is to those beautiful women out there that are going through the hard times right now, aren't to the other side yet.
Right, who aren't in that relationship, maybe where they have somebody who's going to go fully invested and go invest. Joe Dispenza ain't on the bottom shelf, folks.
No.
Right? It was an investment.
And neither is the 5-star resort in Cancun. In fact, Larry's biggest sacrifice may have been he loves food, like really loves food. And it was, all inclusive. So to spend all of that time meditating when he could be in all those restaurants, that may have been the biggest sacrifice of the event.
That is a big sacrifice. I think the first thing that came to me when you asked that, I kind of remembered my answer, but I couldn't remember what the question was to not wait for anybody. Give yourself permission. I guess for myself, that's what I had to do. I kept waiting for somebody to come around for me to go enjoy that trip or to go to that movie or, to go dancing or whatever. Like I didn't want to go alone, or I didn't want to have to ask someone else to go with me. And coming out on the other side, it's like, well, if I want to go on a trip, then why am I not asking anybody, my mom, my sister, my friend, instead of waiting for, Prince Charming to come to do that, is to give yourself permission to go and fulfill that
Today.
today.
Make plans today. Put it
in action today.
Put it in action today. Save $1 today toward that. Do something today, but give yourself permission because you don't need to be in a relationship to live a fulfilled life.
Absolutely.
Correct.
You need to have a companion to have a fulfilled relationship, but those are two independent things. And you know what? You got to be the fulfilled person, independent, so that when you meet that other great companion, right, that you're coming into it whole
and fulfilled.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it's not about money. I know that that's a pricey kind of retreat, and I'm at that point where I can do that. But 10 years ago, when I met Larry, like the 3 years before that of, my life, they weren't good. I had a friend, I was a new friend. She'd had a dream and she saw me in the dream, and then I met her at a business thing the next day. And afterwards she said, I saw you in my dream last night. We need to be friends. So we became friends. And then she joined my business with me, but I didn't know her very well. And we were in the grocery store. We were both in, I'm going through this breakup of my 29-year relationship. And I wanted to have a roast for my family. And she was there at the same time. And we're like, well, if we buy this 2-pack, we can save 50 cents, right? Like it really mattered. And we were like, we really wanted to do this nice thing. Well, the hilarious part is when we got to the checkout, we paid for it. And then we opened it up. It wasn't a 2-pack. They put a sticker over the middle where we thought it was a 2-pack. And we actually did a tug of war to break up the roast to save 50 cents. But we were still trying to treat ourselves to something better than what we could, even though we had to do it in these very strange ways. But I would go out running every night during that thing. And I don't even like to run, but that's what Tony Robbins did. And that's all I knew back then. So I was out there going, doing this finger thing, trying to say to myself all of these affirmations, right? And this is my first introduction to really trying this stuff. And I'm like out there trying to do it because I got to create something different. And the whole time I'm thinking, you're a liar, you're a liar. I couldn't believe any of them, right? I could not. But at some point, the brain gives up and it gives in to the repeated actions that allow change to happen. So don't give up, even though it feels like you're lying to yourself at first. Because now that I've trained and practiced all of this stuff, and you said that word remember at the first of the podcast, Seth, I was like, remember, I'm actually like at a place now where I'm remembering my future, where what I'm shooting for is already a memory in the past in my brain, because I haven't gotten there yet. I won't get there till August, but I already know what August is going to look like. And I'm already feeling like I'm looking at it as though it was a memory. It's past me already, because I'm so sure that my mind can create a more beautiful future every day. And at first that felt like a lie. For a long time, it felt like a lie. In fact, I was thinking about it this week. It felt so much like a lie that it felt ridiculous to even do it. And I'm so grateful I persevered, because suddenly the blinders go off and your brain accepts it, and you can create amazing things.
The genesis of everything, it comes down to the mindset, the core beliefs. So let's move into the health side of things with a few more questions before we're going to call this episode.
All right. Can you share with us your personal journey towards better health and well-being and any key insights or turning points along the way?
So I grew up in Utah, Western medicine, all of the normal things of a middle class society, I guess. And then I married my first husband and finished college and moved to Norway. And in Norway, I didn't really know anyone. I knew my husband and I'd met my in-laws, but we didn't live by them. And so I had a lot of time to think on my own, and I read a lot of books, and I found out that I was a lot more interested in science than I had originally believed from high school, in college. I didn't really like that. But now I love it. And so I started just becoming a mother makes you fascinated about how your body makes a baby, right? And how children develop and all that. So I got more interested in, because I was so isolated, a lot of my information came from books. And I started being more aware of a more holistic approach to life. So, I stopped eating, I started eating butter when everyone was still eating margarine. I kind of lucked out in some sense of just kind of falling into it on my own. And then the Norwegian lifestyle is quite supportive of that. For example, they call candy, like just little candies, they call that Saturday's treat. So culturally, you would eat that on Saturday. And I think it came from a TV show for children being on Saturday, or the first radio show for children. So the name of candy is actually Saturday's treat. So if someone would give your child a candy, they'd say, here's your Saturday's treat. So my kids would save it for Saturday. So I just had some basic things change by living in Europe, and my mind just became broader, and I was left to myself, and I noticed things. I noticed that things had energy. I don't know. I think I was always aware of those things. I just had ignored them because I lived in a society that was really fast paced, and Norway is a slower pace. So being that isolated, I became more aware of who I actually was, and I started to learn about these kinds of things. And then I was working as a photographer. It's the year I met Seth, and I photographed Dr. Joe McCord. When I photographed people, I would go on Google and research them. And I researched him, and I saw this study that launched genetic activation into the health space. And I took no supplements at the time, but I was blown away. And I thought to myself, I'm taking this for the rest of my life, right? Like, this is the coolest thing ever. And it was sold at Rite Aid and GNC, and I went and bought it. And then I heard they were moving it to a direct sales company. And I thought, oh my gosh, here's this most amazing product, and it's moving to a direct sales company. So I want to be part of that. But the real change as far as health goes was that when I started activating my body, at first I didn't notice anything. And I took it and I thought to myself, if the study's right, because I love science, remember, if this study is right, I will never notice that this is working for me. But what I will notice, or what will happen, what has to happen as an outcome of activating my genes like this, is that I'm not going to get my mom's arthritis as quickly. I'm not going to get my dad's heart disease. I might not get the melanoma that he had. I was thinking, I'm going to be 10 years older. I'm doing the math on slowing down my aging. And I'm like, I'm going to be older when I fall apart. Like I'm just going to be older, and that's a good thing, and I'll never know it works. Well, at the time I was 45, I was exhausted. Like, I needed so much sleep. I was sleeping as much as I could sleep, and you could have left me for 12, 14, 15 hours. I'd have slept them. And I wanted someone to get up midweek so I could sleep in on Wednesdays and Saturdays, right? And then I activated my genes to make all these amazing enzymes, and literally my need for sleep just decreased, and I felt amazing. And I have for 15 years. I can still drive through the night. I still live like I'm 20 as far as how deeply I sleep and how energetic I am all day. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But what came by taking care of my cellular health, what it brought with it was this amazing cycle that was so positive with discipline. I had the discipline to finally exercise, which brings its own set of benefits, right? I had the discipline to follow through. I had the discipline and the desire. Well, before I had the desire, but not the discipline to start a project or to start a home-based business or to do any of these things. And so it was like, with my cells being healthy, my actual cells, each little one of them being in this healthy state, it brought these gifts of clarity and discipline and energy, which allowed me to add other things like exercise and meditation, all these things that I wanted to do before, but I couldn't do. I suddenly had time because it gave me time back to not need to sleep all the time. And it gave me discipline. That's the best way I can say it, and put me in this state where the positive cycle has continued for the last 15 years, even through my divorce. And the beautiful thing was I loved it so much that I had started building that business. And when I ended up needing to really change my financial picture, I had the tools for financial self-care because I'd already started them. So when I got divorced, my ex got the business, which was my primary source of income. I got the mortgage payment with no way to pay it, right? Mm-hmm. So I took this really poorly paying part-time job, but I also had that income from that business I'd started 6 years earlier. So I dug that well before I needed the water, and it was life-saving in keeping me and my children in our home. And so, it's great that I am at this place today, but I do know what it's like to not be able to meet a mortgage payment. And I do know what it's like to wonder if your kids are going to get kicked out of their home. And I'm so grateful to say that my kids are still in that home. Wow. Thanks, Seth. You coached me through all that. Not what I just said, but what those years when it was that hard, right? Mm-hmm. When 50 cents mattered.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's powerful. When 50 cents really matters, and you've got a tug of war, a roast, you got to pull a roast apart, in the parking right. In the parking lot. But
I was grateful. I mean, a roast was fancy, right? That was like rare back then. Yes. Now I have a cattle ranch. Freezer full, grass-fed, beautiful cattle meat.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Amazing what's happening in the world of science today. From a health standpoint, scientists who understand how the body works. You're talking about literally seeing yourself in the future, but almost slowing that aging process down, right? 70% of what we associate with aging is lifestyle related and controllable. So your future isn't written off because you have kidney failure in your family, or heart disease, or MTHFR, or autoimmune, right? There are a host of things that you can do that are lifestyle related, and the new science, and we don't have time to go into it today. That's another episode, but this new science of activating your genetic code. Like, I was actually on the phone with a woman today, and she was blown away because I said there are essentially two kind of schools of thought. And this is a really broad definition. So I know there are lots of schools of thought, but there's kind of the school of when you get sick, take the meds, right? Like, take that real Western medicine, kind of fix it when it breaks, the surgery, open me up, and then put me on some meds. Kind of an approach. There's also this massive approach, which is more integrative. It includes supplementation, but it's more of a natural approach with lifestyle, what you're eating, what you're putting in your body. And there's a new school of thought, which some of the research that you talked about, which is, listen, and I shared this with this woman, and it was like this light went off in her. I said, okay, you like, their medications have a purpose. I get that. And you've got your supplements and kind of that natural lifestyle. But I said, where is the health really coded, right? It doesn't come from a pharmaceutical product. It doesn't necessarily even come from the supplement. And then when I said this, it was like a revelation, like the heavens parted, angels singing. I said, the health for your body, health and wellness is coded within that body, within those genes. Health is coded. Wellness is coded within your genes. And it was like, she just got this big smile. And I said, and you can actually activate that now. That's what the science is showing us. And she said, it's almost like you just, what did she say? Like, you just push a button. And I said, yeah, we call it flipping the switch, right? Or activating. But so the question is, what are some of the common misconceptions or challenges that women face today in maintaining or or making a correction to that, to their current lifestyle when it comes to health?
When I address self-care with women, I'm looking, like we talked about in the beginning, I am looking for what is the most efficient things we can do, because I help busy women, right? I'm a busy woman. So it takes a lot of time to food prep, to have all your meals ready for an entire week. And it's a beautiful thing if you can do that. It's time consuming, right? Exercise. There are really efficient ways of exercising. We've learned a lot over the last few years about exercise. You can, like when I lift at the gym, I am lifting a max weight, low rep, because I'm trying to get in and out in 20 minutes, right? So, rather than doing lots of reps over a long period of time, like I'm condensing things because I have a really full life, and for me to do them, I need to do that. And so I'm looking at things that are really, really efficient. And like we just talked about, the most efficient thing I can do is to make sure my cells are healthy. If my cells are healthy and I can do that by activating genetic switches, it's much faster than if I run a marathon. Like it's just faster, right?
It's more
And
efficient, right? And it's
more efficient. And
it's like a domino,
if you have time,
right? It's a domino
yes,
that pushes those
yes,
other dominoes.
yes. And then all of those other things are more efficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started activating, it became easier to do those other things. And I also needed less of them to maintain the result. So if there's something I can do, so like I learned at the meditation retreat that I have control of my body. And I saw a girl walk into the retreat. I met her at dinner the night before because I went a day early. And she was having seizures from the loud music, and he plays loud music and flashes lights, which you would think is counterintuitive to meditation, but that's how we start. And she's having seizures. Well, they had a nurse there who contacted Dr. Joe, and she met with him, and the next day she stayed the rest of the week without seizures, the whole week. So the mind is very powerful, and he teaches you how to activate your mind to do that. So I know that if I sat in the meditation, and I'm not as good at it as I will be, but I'm practicing, right? And I know that I could spend time practicing activating my genes, and I know that I could activate my genes because when Dr. Joe starts his week long, he has 1,800 blood samples in a study that the UC San Diego is doing. They have 1,800 blood samples of people before they go into the meditation retreat and their blood when they leave. And when they leave, 77% of those people have completely different blood when they leave. Their blood work is completely different, express different genes, everything's completely different. The microbiome, completely different when they leave after a week in the meditation. So I could spend a week and affect my genes, or I can swallow a genetic activator and use my time meditating to manifest the perfect man, or what I need to make my very large family function in a way that's loving and kind and supportive to all 30 something of us. So I'm going to swallow the pill, even though I know I could do it through meditation to activate those genes, because I'm going to use my meditation for something that I can't do easily, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I'm looking at things, I'm making choices. I'm traveling a lot. I have a really fun lifestyle, right? So I'm eating out a lot. My husband loves food, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I'm going to have meat and double veggies. That's just my rule. I have meat and double veggies, right? Now I've fixed the problem of what am I going to eat and is it healthy for me? I just say meat, double veggies. And I mean, if you're gluten-free and you have to eat a certain way, or if you're a plant-based person, like every body is different. I know that my body does well meat, double veggies, right? So I figured that out about me. And I'm not saying that's what everyone else should do. I'm just saying learn the easy things, the things that you can do to manage your life in the most efficient way. And then you have all this extra time to sit and talk to people you love, to spread joy, to spend time supporting people in need. But you got to find a way to efficiently care for yourself. And you can start really small. I always start small when I implement something new. I'm talking the smallest possible thing I can't fail at. So if I broke my ribs, and then I needed to get back into exercising, a year and a half later when I finally got there again. And it was like, okay, I am going to pick up that bottle and do one bicep curl, and that's it. and then I'm going to celebrate, right? And
Yeah.
then tomorrow I might like do a plank, I mean, it's like I start really small, and by, 10 days into it, I'm doing great. But if I start big, I can't maintain it. So,
I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to work out every day, and you don't. But
right.
if you just make one addition, like what's the smallest, easiest, fastest win that you can get?
Exactly.
One bicep curl, right? One bicep
Yep.
curl. Okay, I'm
You
done.
did
And
it,
that seems
right?
ludicrous, but if you did that again tomorrow, and tomorrow you're going to say, you know what? I
Exactly.
can do that. So I will. And right.
Yes.
And I'm going to do another one.
And then you got to celebrate. Like, don't beat yourself up because it was one bicep curl. Just say, that's what I'm going to do today. Like, it's not like, I know I can do more. Sure, I do know I could do more, right? But I'm not going to. Today I'm going to do this, and it's good enough, right? Good enough has a place.
How can women advocate for their own health and do it effectively with the healthcare system?
Wow. It's a deep one. Last year, 2 years ago, my daughter-in-law, second-year law student, got diagnosed with a really, really rare disease, like 1 in a million people. 9 out of 10 of those people are Asian, and she's Caucasian. The doctors had never heard of it, right? And she needs open heart surgery, which is the least of her problems. That's like the least of the problems. And we ended up in the hospital for 6 weeks. A month of them, she was having strokes. When the doctors don't know what they're doing, even when they do, but especially when they don't, you have got to advocate, and you have got to figure stuff out, right? Mm-hmm. My son was an amazing example for that. And we were there physically monitoring her ourselves 24 hours a day to stop that, because they did not know how to help her. And eventually we got her to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester after she got stabilized here, and we were able to help her. But it was through my son advocating on her behalf, and her parents and Larry and I, we navigated that. I think is, in hindsight, you always want to change things, but had we left it up to doctors who are unfamiliar with this disease, we would not have the outcome that we have, which is that she just finished law school. And she had to advocate for herself to get through law school, because, she had a scholarship, and now her brain has, all of these side effects from the strokes and all of these things. And God blessed us. It's a miracle that she's still here, but it is through hard work. She was paralyzed on one side, but you wouldn't know looking at her today. She has to advocate constantly to get the care that she needs. And then what usually goes with the care that you need is some kind of trauma, right? It's a traumatic thing to go through something life-altering. I think you just have to know in your gut that you're actually in charge of your life. Seth said it earlier, and I had just posted this week a quote by Mel Robbins that said, "No one's coming for you," right? Yeah. And I posted a funny little clip of Jennifer Aniston, hiding with a sleep mask. And I'm like, which person are you? The one that kind of hides when no one's coming for you, or the one that picks up the bat and swings it and is on your way to take care of business, right? You have got to channel the girl with the bat from Jersey, right?
Girl with the bat from Jersey, hat on backwards.
You got to channel that girl when you're advocating for yourself, because it doesn't just matter to you. It matters to all the people who love you, all the people that you are going to serve in that future. And you have got to hold on to that vision of you in health. Yesterday, I met the founder of Rezimax, Rezzimax. And he spent 3 hours showing me the tool that he has created, or several of the tools that he's created, that help us solidify information in our nervous system. So you hold a device, and it vibrates in a specific pattern that helps you reset the nervous system. So you can think those thoughts about your health. You can think about how you want it to be, and you can teach the nervous system to respond more quickly. So now you can reset your nervous system, you can activate your genes, and we see amazing results, right? Mm-hmm. Dr. Joe uses meditation. He sees amazing results. I saw that woman walk in and not have seizures, right? After having them. And there are tools. There are tools, and it's hard to navigate that world, but they are there. And so I created that website where I'm trying to not just create content, but curate information that I have either, experienced or seen other people experience that might not be readily available to people, where they are able to explore things like your somatic yoga that you guys are talking about on one of your episodes, I think. Things that aren't like just out there. They're out there and they work, but we don't know about them. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I tried to do with the website is to put all of these pieces in there, and then you can find the one that resonates with you and bless lives, because your life blesses lives.
You can find that at youcanselfcare.com. Right.
No, and I didn't mean to do a plug.
No, I did.
Thank you.
Okay, it's out there, but we're not going to tell you how to get to it, right?
I know,
Let us know, wander around, hey, no, right? Youcanselfcare.com, and you're listening to this on theforeveryoungshow.com.
On theforeveryoungshow.com. And I literally had a woman text me yesterday and say, it was 2 days ago, and she said, "What exactly do you do?" And I was like, I curate content and create content for women who are searching for ways to do self-care. And she was, and then I said, "But I think you're asking me, how do I make money?" And I said, financial self-care is self-care. It's a piece. And this is how I make money. And I sent her a link to that part of the website, right? Because it's not secret. And I, I only make money one way. I only make money if I help someone, right? Yep. And most of the content on the website is absolutely free. And most of the things, I'm not an affiliate for. They just work. And I know from the bottom of my heart that they work, and I want people to know.
Well, let's end with this one question on financial self-care. And you've woven this thread throughout this entire interview today. And I know you're going to be punchy here and efficient. But I am not, I don't want to say I'm not efficient, but none of my family would say I'm efficient when it comes to speaking. Now I'm effective.
Yes.
But I'm with Joe Dispenza here. I've got one point to prove here. And it might take us a couple hours to get there. But I want to end with this thought, because you've experienced this. Stephanie's experienced this as a single mom, right? And again, I was on a exploration call with a woman in her 50s who has moved from her current state, kind of in this new part of her life. And you know what she's saying to herself? I need to create financial prosperity. I need to create financial self-sufficiency first, and then and then move on. And that is a question that eludes many, many women. So I know you're going to be efficient, but we have one last question as we wrap this up.
So how can women build financial independence and security for themselves and their families?
80%, this is a statistic probably from 2019, so I don't know what it is today, but 80% of women who make over $100,000 have a home-based business. Period. Wow. That's the answer. My mother started a home-based business when she had to drop out of college to support my dad so he could finish college. They were the first students in their families to go to college, right? And she started a home-based business. It won the National Small Business Award for the whole United States by the, 11 or 12 years later. Well, not even that, maybe 9 years later. Women are incredible. They have an instinct. My mom had an instinct. She knew what that would mean. My dad quit his job after college and became the owner of my mom's home business, right? And they blessed lives. They allowed other women to work for them from home so they could stay with their children and still earn money. Women have got to stop, unless they feel driven and guided to go the traditional route, like my daughter-in-law who felt that guided to go to law school. If you don't feel guided for that, then don't take on the traditional man's way of doing work. Let's work from an intuitive place as women where we know we have the freedom to still bless our families' lives, because there are so many opportunities out there. So for me, the answer is always a home-based business, because I saw it growing up. I saw what it gave my family, and I do it myself. So that's always my answer. 80% of the women who actually don't just survive but thrive have a business. That's my answer, Seth.
Wow.
Efficiency.
Not real efficient, but I tried.
Oh, it was well done.
Is well done. That'll start me on a 60 minutes to say the same thing. No, we're done. We're done.
I was like, no.
She's like, no. Awesome. I feel like we just touched the tip. We touched the tip, MaryLyn, today. You are so prepared. You helped us prepare. And then we've just had just an awesome conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
I love you guys. I love what you do in the world. I love the CEO. Become the CEO of your own life. I mean, how can you say that any better? Like, become the CEO of your own life, people. It is the way to go. It is absolutely the way to go, because it's freedom. It's freedom on every level. If I'm in charge, I can fix it. And if I can't fix it, I can turn it over to God and He can fix it.
Well, I think that we should put on our bucket list that the four of us go to Africa together.
I was wondering if you're coming with that one.
You know her mojo, you know.
Well, and I
Her
feel
new
like
role. You're
feel
stepping
like-
into your new role.
honestly, it just comes naturally though. Like, even if I didn't have this role, I'm still going out. Like, even before I had it, I go out and I talk to people, and I want them to come, because once you've had that experience of changing lives on such a grand scale from such a small sacrifice on my end, and the pure joy that you get from it, like, I can't help but invite those that I know would experience it in a similar way and have a similar effect. And we get to bless lives. So
Exactly. That is the mantra at my house. Bless lives every day. We're like, bless lives, bless lives. So I'm honored that you asked, and I would love to explore that with you.
sounds
do
good.
Let's do it. And cut. It's a wrap.
Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing this episode with that one friend who needs this conversation. Thank you for all the ratings, the reviews, the comments, and especially the support. We so appreciate you.
Now, if you want to take a peek behind the curtain and be the first to know about special previews, backstage updates here at the show, and especially some private collection content that doesn't come out in the regular show,
Be sure to join our VIP community at theforeveryoungshow.com.